ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं शरवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भूयो नन्ति कुर्यात्. Your words are like nectar, bringing life to scorched souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome to our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We finished, stopped last last time on page 593. This is the chapter, the Master in Various Moods, and I'm going to skip some of this. Yeah, because I've been dreading this section actually. Yeah, it every once in a while, Sri Ramakrishna will get into uh, one of his moods where he's talking to the men devotees, and it's a little difficult for women to hear these things because he's trying to break that attachment that some men have to women and to the young boys who he uh, knows are going to lead monastic lives. Yeah. So I'm going to do something a little unusual. I'm going to, instead of reading this section, which I don't know why he does it. It gives a very unrealistic picture of his real attitude sometimes. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is read a section instead of that section from Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play. Yeah, that'll give the other side of the story because we don't want anybody to think that Sri Ramakrishna doesn't like women, or he's telling us that we should hate women or look down upon them in any way. So this is a very nice section. This is page 405, and Sri Ramakrishna, his divine play, or the Leela Prasanga, and the chapter is Sri Ramakrishna in Bhavamukha, and yeah, because we never get the point of view of the women devotees, very rarely, and we don't have any recording of Sri Ramakrishna when he's speaking to the women devotees and what he says about men and how to avoid them and be careful and cautious and everything. So we get a very one-sided picture very often. Here in this section, we get a little bit from the point of view of the women devotees. So I'm going to start here on page 405. It was sometime in August or September 1884. The Holy Mother was then at her father's house in Jaidambati. Balaram had gone with his father to Vrindavan along with Rakal, that's Swami Brahmananda, Gopal, later Swami Advaitananda, and some men and women devotees. A woman from a respectable family of Baghbazar, who had heard about the master but had never met him, had a keen desire to see him. She told this to a woman friend who had been visiting the master for 2 years. See, we get the impression sometimes that the women didn't go to visit him because those things aren't recorded. Accordingly, they planned to visit him. The next day, they took a boat to Dakshineshwar, arriving in the afternoon. The master's door was closed. There were 2 holes in the northern wall, so they peeped through them and saw the master resting. They then went to the Nahabat, where the Holy Mother lived, and waited for him. Soon the master got up and opened the north door. When he saw them sitting on the upper veranda of the Nahabat, he called to them, "Hello, please come here." When the women had come and sat on the carpet, the master got down from his wooden cot and sat near the woman devotee whom he knew. When the bashful woman tried to move away a little, the master said, why are you so shy? One will not succeed as long as one has these 3: shame, hatred, and fear. Basically, you and I are the same. indicating her and himself, but you feel shy because of this, pointing to his beard. Is that not so? He then talked about God and gave them some spiritual instruction. Forgetting the distinction between men and women, they freely asked questions of the master and listened to his answers. When, after a long conversation, they took their leave, the master said, "Come here once a week. In the beginning, one should visit frequently." Knowing that they belonged to respectable families but were not wealthy, the master again said, "Form a group of 3 or 4 and then come to Dakshineshwar by boat. And when returning home, walk up to Baranagore and then share a carriage." From then on, the women devotees acted accordingly. Once, another woman devotee, Golapma, told us, as we knew that the master liked a sweet made from thick boiled milk, shor, one day we brought a large piece for him from the shop of Bhola, a famous confectioner in Calcutta. 5 of us together then hired a boat and went to Dakshineshwar. Ah, when we heard that the master had gone to Calcutta, we were broken-hearted. Now, what should we do? Ramlal was there. When he was asked where in Calcutta the master had gone, he said to M's house. This is, of course, Mahendranath Gupta, the compiler of the Gospel of Ramakrishna, in Kambulya Tola. To this, A's mother said, "I know that house. It was near my father's. Will you go? Come, let us go." All agreed. We handed the sweet to Ramlal and left, saying, "Please give it to the master when he returns." We had already sent a boat away, so we started out on foot. But such was the master's grace that we had hardly covered the short distance to Alambazar when an empty carriage returning to Calcutta became available. We hired the carriage and soon reached Shyampukur. Again, we faced trouble. A's mother could not find the house. After searching for some time, she finally stopped the carriage in front of her father's place and called for a servant. He came with us and pointed out the house. And how could we blame A's mother? She was 3 or 4 years younger than we were, about 26 or 27. A mere daughter-in-law, she had never come out on a road by herself. Moreover, the house was located in a narrow lane. How could she recognize it? Finally, with great difficulty, we reached the house. We were not then acquainted with M's family. When we entered, we saw the master sitting on a wooden cot in a small room. No one was near him. As soon as he saw us, he smiled and said affectionately, "Ah, how did you manage to come here?" We bowed down to him and told him the whole story. He was very happy. Then he asked us to sit and began to talk on various subjects. Nowadays, many people say he did not allow women to touch him or even to go near him. At this we laugh and think, we are not dead yet. Who can comprehend how compassionate he was? He had the same feeling towards men and women. It is true that if women stayed near him for a very long time, he would say, "Please go now and pay reverence to the deities and the temples." But we have also heard him ask men to do the same. Anyway, we were sitting on the floor and talking to him. The 2 of us, who were most senior, sat very near the door, and the other 3 sat in a corner of the room. In the meantime, Ramakrishna Mukhopadhyay, whom the master called the fat Brahmin, arrived. There was no way to get out of the small room. See, in those days, the women couldn't be there if men came. Moreover, where could we go? There was a window near the door where the 2 oldest ones hid. The remaining 3 of us crawled under the cot on which the master was seated and lay down there. Our bodies swelled from mosquito bites, but what could we do? We lay there without moving. The fat Brahmin talked to the master for about an hour and then left. At last, we came out and we all left. The master was then taken to the inner apartment for refreshment, and we accompanied him. After some time, the master got into a carriage to return to Dakshineshwar, and we walked back home. It was about 9 p.m. The next day, we went to Dakshineshwar again. As soon as we arrived, the master came to us and said, "Ah, I ate almost all of the sweet that you gave me. Only a little was left over. It did not make me sick. My stomach was just a little heavy." I was surprised to hear that he had eaten a whole piece of shor because his delicate stomach could not handle such rich food. Then I heard that he had eaten it while in an ecstatic mood. He had taken his food at M's house and returned to Dakshineshwar at 10:30 p.m. Shortly after his arrival, he went into ecstasy and told Ramlal, I'm very hungry. Give me whatever there is in the room." Immediately, Ramlal served the shar to the master, and he had eaten almost the whole piece. Then I remembered what I had heard from the Holy Mother and Lakshmi about sometimes when he was in ecstasy, he would eat an abnormal quantity of food and digest it. Ah, he bestowed so much grace on us. We cannot express in words what that compassion was like, and how attracted we were to him. Even we ourselves do not understand how we used to go to him and do all those things. Alas, we can no longer go on foot to strangers' homes without telling anyone in order to see a holy man or listen to spiritual talks. The power we had to do all those things vanished with the one who was its source. We do not know why we have lived so long after losing the master. So this is just to give a little balance. If you want to read it on your own, you can, but we're going to skip to now page 602. This is the chapter Advice to Ishan. Ishan, we've seen many, many times. He plays an important role. He was an elderly man who was very devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. He was a greatly charitable man. Swamiji says that he was equally charitable and philanthropic as Vidyasagar was. And Vidyasagar was considered to be the paragon of charitable people. And Swamiji was friends with one of his sons. And so Swamiji spent a lot of time at his house. And anyhow, uh, he had a little penchant for doing orthodox things. And we'll get to all of this. Wanted to do this repetition of this Gayatri Mantra. So this is Saturday, October 11th, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna lay on the small couch in his room at the Dakshineshwar temple garden. It was about 2 in the afternoon. M and Priya Mukherjee were sitting on the floor. M had left his school at 1 o'clock and had just arrived at Dakshineshwar. The master was telling anecdotes about the calculating nature of the wealthy Jadu Malik. Priya Mukherjee and his brother, Yamahendranath, we've come across them many times. They had that flour mill, and they came to see Sri Ramakrishna quite often. Jadu Malik was a very wealthy man who had his home in Calcutta, and he had all the wealthy people had the second homes, the garden homes, and his was just south of the Dakshineshwar temple complex. So Thakur used to go and visit him. He had tremendous affection towards Sri Ramakrishna, but was a worldly man. His mother was very devoted. He was a worldly man and loved to talk to very wealthy people and everything, but had some substance to him. Sri Ramakrishna liked him, and he respected him, but very calculating. Master. Once I went to Jadu Malik's house. He asked right away, how much is the carriage hire? Someone told him that it was 3 rupees and 2 annas. Then he questioned me about it. Next, one of the people secretly asked the coachman, who said it was 3 rupees and 4 annas. All that. At that, he ran to us and said, how much did you say the carriage hire was? You see, he's such a wealthy person. These are pennies, even in those days. It is nothing. A broker was present. He said to Jadu, "There's a plot of land at Boro Bazaar for sale. Will you buy it?" Jadu asked the price, and the broker told him. Jadu said, "Won't he give it for less?" I said to Jadu, "Come, come, you aren't going to buy the land. You're only bargaining, isn't that so?" He turned to me and laughed. That is the nature of the worldly man. He wants people to come to him. That spreads his name in the market. Jadu went to Adhar's house. I told him it had made Adhar very happy. Adhar, we know, was the young deputy magistrate, also very, very greatly devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. He said, "What? What? Was he really happy?" A certain Malik came to Jadu's house. He was very clever and deceitful. I saw it in his eyes. I looked at him and said, "It isn't good to be clever. The crow is very clever, but it eats others' filth." I could tell he was badly off. Jadu's mother was amazed and said to me, "How did you know he hadn't a penny?" I saw it from his appearance. Narayan entered the room and sat on the floor. Now we have different classes of devotees, or we can say disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. This Narayan, there were several of them who were schoolboys, who were students of M's, and whom Sri Ramakrishna, it seems, was grooming them to also become monastic disciples. But for one reason or another, usually the parents panicked. Yeah, the parents were very much against that. In some cases, they will even beat the boys if they snuck out and went to see Sri Ramakrishna, and would try to arrange marriages for them at an early age so that they wouldn't. They all thought that Sri Ramakrishna, he would just cast a spell on them, and of course he did on some, but. Of course, they had to have some substance in them. But this is a class that we can say these schoolboys, probably 14, 15, 16, 17, something like that, who had tremendous spiritual yearning and were very pure souled young boys that Sri Ramakrishna was very happy to be with. The others, say these Mukherjee brothers and everything, they formed a different class. They also had their families, their businesses or careers, whatever, and we don't expect them to be able to do the type of spiritual practices and everything as the others. So Thakur would say for those, hold on to God with one hand, hold on to the world with the other hand. Yeah, and lead that type of life. But this Narayan, that Sri Ramakrishna really, he was so happy whenever he came to see him. So Narayan entered the room and sat on the floor. Master to Priyanath. Well, your Hari is a fine young man. Now, the previous chapter, you may remember, Hari, he says your Hari, but Hari, it doesn't seem like he was his son or anything. I think he may be a nephew, a relative. That all we read earlier that he was a relative. So he says your Hari is a fine young man. Perhaps he was a nephew or something. Priyanath. What is so fine about him? Of course, he has a childlike nature. Narayan. He addressed his wife as mother. So he's a young man, probably fairly recently married. I think he'll be in his 20s or something like that. We read this also about Bhavanath, that after Bhavanath was married, that they stay up all night and discuss spiritual things. He calls her mother and everything like that. Yeah. And before you know it, they have a child. He addressed his wife as mother. Master. What? Even I can't do that. And he calls her mother to Priyanath. You see, the boy is very quiet. His mind is directed to God. And Sri Ramakrishna changed the subject of conversation. Master, do you know what Hem said? He said to Babaram, God alone is real, all else is illusory. All left. I don't know who this Hem is. Do you know what is Hem? who this character in the gospel? Him. Do you have the?
I have the Bangla, but
Yeah. See if it's there for some reason.
I don't think it's on the digital version.
Yes.
I can
Portable has it.
yeah.
Portable has it. Anyhow, we can understand from this that the him is probably a married person, career person. He may be a good person and everything, but he's not. Uh, he's not someone who is filled with vairagya, ready to renounce everything. God alone is real. Spend his whole life calling on God. Nothing like that. So, do you see it there?
Yeah.
What does it say?
Him is Rai Bahadur Hemchandra Kaur.
Okay.
His full name.
Okay.
He was the deputy magistrate.
Deputy magistrate.
Yeah.
Anything else?
And Thakur, Thakurer Bhakta Poltu Pita.
Oh, father, Poltu's father.
Yeah.
Okay, Poltu was one of the young boys who that like Narayan,
Yeah.
like Narayan. Oh, Poltu's father. Okay, okay, yeah. So is it Hemendra is his full name or
Hemchandra. Hemchandra Kaur.
Hemchandra? Hemchandra. Okay, yeah. Okay, so anyhow, he's probably a good person and everything, but he's not. He's not one of these close inner circle, yeah, devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. Anyhow, the point is that anybody can say Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya, this world is unreal, but how many people live in the world in such a way that it makes any sense to them? So for most people, it's either uh, hypocrisy or just something that's not carried into practice, or when they're in the mood. Yeah, this is where somebody else loses the job. This world is unreal. I lose a job and I panic. Yeah. So anyhow, he's just uh, the silliness of it, really, for those who uh, are not fit for that spiritual attitude. This is that question of adhikara that we read so many times. There's so much emphasis. Uh, we read in chapter 12 of the Gita that this very strict path of non dualism is for those who have very little attachment to the world. And even that, even one can be a non dualist and not look upon this world as somehow illusory. Yeah. We can say Swamiji is a perfect example. How much weight he gave to this world and people suffering and everything, and at the same time was fully immersed in that idea of oneness. Yeah. So anyhow, so they all laugh. He said, "Oh no," he said it sincerely. Again, he told me he would take me to his house and sing kirtan, but he didn't do it. I understand that he said later on, what will people say if I sing with drums and cymbals? He was afraid that people might think he was crazy. Okay, now, okay, I'll read this. I'll skip some other things also. Haripada has fallen into the clutches of a woman of the Ghoshpara sect. He can't get rid of her. I'll explain this in a minute. He says that she takes him on her lap and feeds him. She claims that she looks on him as the baby Krishna. I've warned him a great many times. She says that she thinks of him as a child, but this maternal affection soon degenerates into something dangerous. The There were different groups at that time, and there are many references. One is called this Ghoshpara or Kortabhaja. Kortabhaja, I think they're the same group really, and it started in Ghoshpara, so it goes by both names. And this Vaishnav Charan was the spiritual leader of that group. Anyhow, the uh, this type of uh, almost we can say left-handed this brahmachara, this type of practice uh, cropped up in different systems and in different traditions in India among the Vaishnava tradition and among the Shaktas mostly. Among the Vaishnava, these different groups, Ghoshpara, uh, they take two of the bhavas, these spiritual attitudes. One is Vatsalya Bhava, and the other is Madhura Bhava. Yeah. And the real intention of this Vatsalya Bhava is for, generally it's an attitude that women take, and they try to look upon the baby Krishna as their own child and worship Krishna that way. But what these particular groups do is they'll reenact this Leela. They'll find a woman will find a young boy. Sometimes it's not a young boy, it can be a teenager or something like that. And they'll reenact it. They'll try to shower that love and feed them and take them on their lap and everything. And having ordinary human propensities and everything, it can degenerate. So this is that warning. Now the others are worse. This when they try to do this Madhura Bhava, then the man will think of himself as Krishna, and the woman will think of herself as Radha. Now the real intention is for everyone to think that they're Radha, and that Krishna is the only male and everything. But they'll do it this other way around, and they'll try to seek it out, and it's generally not husband and wife. It could be. And again, with this Bhairava and Bhairavi, the Shaktas also will do something like that. And so they try to reenact this love play, and of course they turn it into something sexual. Yeah, and it degenerates. So these were things they happen in all traditions. There's always this danger of things degenerating over the course of time, and so this is that reference to the Gopala sect, and many of them were very sincere with this, especially this Vatsalya Bhava, looking on the young man or boy as the baby Krishna, and just as very often that a young girl will be worshipped as a Kumari, form of the Divine Mother, and nothing will happen. There's nothing negative about that, but the chance is there, and those who don't have pure motives, and those who have some desire for enjoyment, can rationalize it because they're doing it under the guise of spirituality. So these things took place.
They're not prostitutes, right?
No, they can be anybody, but they'll sneak out at nighttime and do things like that. Yeah, no, not prostitutes. Yeah, they may be sincere people and everything. This one, Rati's mother, we come across her all of the time, that she was the one who, she stopped going to see Sri Ramakrishna when she saw he was taking non-vegetarian food. But she was a member of that group. Yeah. And he heard that remain in Bhavamukha through her lips in ecstasy. And she was a great devotee at one time. So it's complicated. It's not that they're all phony people or anything, but some degeneration takes place. Yeah. Thakur said, even that is a path, but don't do it. He said, for some, maybe this is the way that they get into the house, through the back door, through the tree. He says, yeah. So anyhow, that's the reference here. Haripad has fallen into the clutches of a woman of the Gopala sect. Okay, I'm going to skip the next paragraph. Those who develop dispassion from early youth, those who roam about yearning for God from boyhood, those who refuse all worldly life belong to a different class. Now, again, I keep harping on this. He's talking to men. These things could equally apply to women. They belong to an unsullied aristocracy. Yeah, and we find this, that many of them, from their very childhood, lead such pure lives, and there's several instances. Niranjan was one. I don't remember who else. One of the others, maybe Gangadhar, the direct disciples. From their very childhood, they said, "I won't marry." Narendra. Yeah, they just had this idea that this was somehow a very high ideal to follow, to lead a life completely given to God, with no other motive, no other desire for enjoyment or pleasure, or desire for children or money or wealth or anything. It's a very rare thing, but some of the families at that time were so simple and so pure. We read about Swamiji's mother and how he worshipped, idolized his mother. Uh, just no attachment to anything, they just had a type of faith that I don't think modern people have really to that extent. That type of faith. So they grow up in that atmosphere. That this is why some of these other the Ghoshpada and these other things, in such stark contrast to the real tradition in India, especially at that time, that was so based on the purity of thought and action and the whole life, the purity of heart. So those who develop this passion from early youth, those who roam about yearning for God from boyhood, those who refuse all worldly life belong to a different class. They belong to an unsullied aristocracy. If they develop true renunciation, they keep themselves at least 50 cubits away from women, lest their spiritual mood should be destroyed. Now, this again goes back to this idea that we belong to the animal kingdom, human beings, and as pure souled as anybody might be, that these tendencies can be triggered in the company of anything that could awaken that. So Sri Ramakrishna, he puts great emphasis on those at the beginning of spiritual life who want to lead a monastic life, to keep themselves away from any type of anything to disturb the mind. Not that anything's going to happen, to disturb the mind. Equally with other things. He told, I think it was Latu, once that don't even walk on the street where the tavern is. So we found that the distance from Ram's house to Dakshineswar, it should have taken walking, I don't know, an hour or something. It took him 6 hours. So we said, well, why does it take you so long? He said, well, I have to go this way and that way. Almost every street there's a tavern. So he took it very literally that way. But anyhow, so these boys were so pure-hearted, and Sri Ramakrishna had very great expectations for them and was very strict about the company that they kept in. People who practice renunciation from early youth belong to a very high level. Their ideal is very pure. They are stainless. How can a man conquer passion? This basically means lust. Lust. It generally, very often they'll say that lust is the root, and all of the other passions are the branches. If one can get rid of this lust, then anger and hatred and possessiveness, all of these other things, they practically disappear. But Sri Ramakrishna also says that this lust is something that belongs to the physical makeup of human beings. And we can't expect to ever be able to say, yes, I'm completely free from all of that. I can't be tempted by anything. He said we shouldn't have that attitude. Anyhow, this is one, he'll give different answers at different times. Sometimes he'll say, you repeat the name of the Hari. Here, he's giving this one other very interesting type of advice. He should assume the attitude of a woman. Yeah. So this means that one of the reasons why a man or a woman will feel attracted to the opposite sex, and of course it may be the same sex, we're not going to get into all of that, is because we identify so much with our own, it's either male body or female body. If we can get rid of that sense of identification, because our sense of identification is a mental thing. We know now with the transgender people and everything else, there are many people who don't identify with their physical body, but they identify with the subtle body that they feel to be different from the physical body. So if we can practice other spiritual moods, if we can force ourselves to think that we're a child of God, or mother of a small child, or servant of God, if we can identify with Hanuman, then we can identify with someone of a different gender also. Anyhow, this is the point that he's making here. And he did this, of course. I spent many days as the handmaid of God. So this is when he stayed with Matur Babu's family, he and his wife, and they used to worship the Divine Mother there, and he used to dress as a handmaid of Ma Durga, and he did it in such a way that all of the other women they felt so comfortable. They treated him like a woman. His mind, we've talked about this in the Tuesday class. His mind was so fluid that he had no identification, the type of identification we have with the body or even with personality. He could identify with all the different moods and different attitudes and everything. So I dressed myself in women's clothes, put on ornaments, and covered the upper part of my body with a scarf, just like a woman, with a scarf on. Sorry. I used to perform the evening worship before the image. Otherwise, how could I have kept my wife with me for 8 months? So he said, in the very beginning, they slept side by side in that little room, and actually not that little room. It was in the mansion, the other room, but still, they slept side by side. And he says that one or two occasions he would look and say, "This is a young, beautiful wife sleeping next to me. If I want, I can enjoy her like any other man would enjoy his wife." And as soon as that thought came into his mind, he would plunge in samadhi. And night after night, he would spend in some type of spiritual mood. And the Holy Mother could hardly sleep. She would wake up, she'd be scared. Sometimes he would be in that state, Nirvikalpa Samadhi. She didn't know if he's alive or dead. And so he found out. And one time she had to call Ramlal, come, or Hridoy, one of them, come. What happened to the master? He's not moving. He seems like he's dead. Is that Nirvikalpa Samadhi? So eventually, for that reason, and also he passed the test, he felt at least. But for that reason, he saw she was not getting any sleep. So then he arranged for her to stay in the Nahalat. One day I was in an ecstatic mood. My wife asked me, "How do you regard me?" "As the blissful mother," I said. Actually, we know the whole story that, see, we hear he couldn't bear the touch of a woman, right? She used to rub his feet and put oil on his body and everything like a wife would do for her husband. So one day she was rubbing his feet, and then she asked him, "How do you look upon me?" And he gave this beautiful answer because his mother was living in the top room at the Nahavat. And he said, she who is living there in the Nahavat, and she who is worshipped in the temples in Bhavatarani, the Kali temple, and the one who is massaging my feet, I see all of them as one and the same. So yeah, his relationship with the Holy Mother was something really remarkable. How he, aside from worshiping her, how he looked upon her with such, and had such hoped for her to carry out his mission in life, that he would say, "You have to do something." Say, "What can I do? I'm a mere woman." He said, "No, you'll have to do far more than I did." And we know he gave her all these mantras and everything. He wanted her to initiate and everything. So how we looked upon her. There's one nice incident in the Bengali language. They have different words for you. The one very, very formal, apni, and then one that you'll do for ordinary equal people, tumi, and then tui for young children or even servants. They'll use this tui form. So once he was in his room, and Holy Mother brought food for him. She used to bring it sometimes. He thought it was his niece Lakshmi, and he said something to her saying tui. And then when Holy Mother said yes, and they said, "Oh, it's you," and he said, "Oh, please forgive me." He felt so bad. The next day also went back to her and said, "Please forgive me. I refer to you as tui and not tumi." Huh? So he had that such tremendous and such love for Holy Mother. How the person who could not save money, could not touch money, could not bear the touch of gold or anything, couldn't even think of accounts, couldn't sign his name on the monthly receipt, nothing like that. How he figured out how much money to take out of his monthly salary to save up money so he could buy bangles for Holy Mother. Yeah. And because he looked upon her as a divine mother. And people would say, yeah, your wife, she seems so simple and everything, but she likes jewelry. He said, don't you know, she's Lakshmi herself, the goddess of wealth. He referred to her so many different ways. She was Mother Kali, she was Saraswati, she was, the Sarada, he would explain, the giver of wisdom. She's Saraswati, and Lakshmi, and Sita, just as Sita lived in exile in Lanka, how she's living in this little Dhabat like that. Yeah, so that relationship with his wife was something we hardly like to think of it as wife, but his consort or partner in spiritual life, Holy Mother, was something wonderful. Otherwise, how could I have kept my wife with me for 8 months? Both of us behaved as if we were the handmaids of the Divine Mother. I cannot speak of myself as a man. One day I was in an ecstatic mood. My wife asked me, how do you regard me? As the blissful mother, I said. Do you know the significance of the Shiva emblem? So this is the Shiva lingam. The Shiva is worshipped sometimes with his anthropomorphic form. We have this beautiful image of Shiva with it matted locks and covered with ashes, and the crescent moon on his head, and Ganges flowing, and with the tiger skin and all of that. And then we have it's either just a natural stone or a stone that's formed by polishing and carving and shaping it. It's Shiva lingam. And so there's a Shiva lingam, there's a yoni that it rests upon. These are symbolically, or the symbolism will be the male and the female organs of generation, because we have the whole idea that Mother or nature is responsible for the creation, giving birth to the universe, and the father has to be there in order to, according to that idea, to give the seed. Yeah, to give the seed to the female, and that will generate this whole universe. So this birth of the universe, symbolically looked at as this union of the male and female, this Purusha and Prakriti, or Shiva and Shakti. So, do you know the significance of the Shiva emblem? It is the worship of the symbols of fatherhood and motherhood, because of the yoni that it rests on. The devotee worshiping the image prays, O Lord, please grant that I may not be born into this world again, that I may not have to pass again through a mother's womb. A tutor of the Tagores entered the room. So this will be this Devendranath, this Rabindranath's father, and it'll be the tutor of the boys of his family. The tutor of the Tagores entered the room with some boys of the family. Sri Ramakrishna continued talking. We don't hear who it is. We don't know really if Rabindranath ever met Sri Ramakrishna. Huh? I don't know exactly. Rabindranath was 2 years older than Swamiji. So at this time, this is 84 or something. So he was born at around 61. Huh? He was born in 61. So that's, yeah. So this is 84. So it'll be, 21, 22, something like that at this time. But there were many, how many, eight boys or something like that? 8 or 9 at the time. So it could have been any of them. Maybe the younger ones, perhaps. So a tutor of the Tagores entered the room with some boys of the family. Sri Ramakrishna continued talking. Master to the devotees. Sri Krishna has a peacock feather on his crest. The feather bears the sign of the female sex, so yoni. The significance of this is that Krishna carries Prakriti, the female principle, on his head. When Krishna joined the circle of the gopis to dance with them, he appeared there as a woman. That is why you see him wearing women's apparel in the company of the gopis. Unless a man assumes the nature of a woman, he is not entitled to her company. Assuming the attitude of a woman, he can sport with her and enjoy her company. But a man must be extremely careful during the early stages of spiritual discipline. This is the thing, the real gist of his instruction, that the early stages of spiritual discipline, that we have to be careful not just with who we mix with, but type of places we go, entertainment, books we read, movies, everything. That the mind is tender and easily formed at that stage. When we get older, things are fixed. Then we don't have to worry so much. But at a young age, we're very much influenced by environment. I have to be careful, cautious about that. Okay, I'm skipping a little. But it is quite different when one reaches perfection. After the realization of God, there is not much for a man to fear. He has become to a great extent secure. The important thing is for a man somehow to climb to the roof. After that, he can even dance there. Well, beautiful. But he cannot dance on the steps. Again, after climbing to the roof, you need no longer discard what you discarded before. You find that the stairs are made of the same material, brick, slime, and brick dust, as the roof. The woman you have to be so careful about at the beginning will appear to you after the realization of God as the Divine Mother herself. Then you will worship her as the Divine Mother. You won't fear her so much. Now, this is also true that we can take this attitude even at the time of sadhana. That Thakur says that because he asked the Swami Turian, the Hari, he asked him, or it came up something like that, and the Hari said something that how fearful he was, keeping the company of women and everything, a little negative and everything. So Thakur said, never take that attitude. If you do, then you'll just be open to all of this, that try to see the Divine Mother in all the women. But with this caveat, that the mind can easily get pulled down. So both are necessary. And again, this is all male-oriented. I wish we had more of his advice to women. Of course, we have Holy Mother, but she said, it won't be much different. It won't be much different. Yeah. The thing is to touch the granny, as children do in the game of hide and seek. This isn't our hide and seek. This is where everyone gets blindfolded, that someone, older woman, will call herself the granny, and with the blindfold, they have to go around and try to touch the granny. If they touch her, they can take the blindfold off. So the thing is to touch the granny, as children do in the game of hide and seek. Then you can do whatever you like. Man, looking outward, sees the gross. At that time, his mind dwells in the Annamaya Kosha, the gross body. Next is the subtle body. Functioning through the subtle body, the mind dwells in the Manomaya Kosha and the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So this means that we live in our own mind. This is the most, even when we're attached to the body, our attachment to the body is through the mind. This is the most important thing. Even our liberation and bondage, everything is through the mind. So it's the mind that has this attachment. Sometimes the attachment is more to the physical body. We know that there are people that maybe due to the life that they lead, the type of work that they have, those athletes, of course, most of their thought has to go in keeping the body healthy and exercising and practicing and all of that. Then you'll have other people, these great scientists, mathematicians, let's say Einstein. He's not even aware if his clothes match or anything wrinkled or crumpled or anything. He couldn't care less. Everything is the mind, identification with the mind. So everyone is different. different that way. Next is the causal body. Functioning through the causal body, the mind enjoys bliss. This causal body is also the Anandamaya kosha. It says it dwells in the Anandamaya kosha. Generally, this causal body we think of in two different ways. One is the subconscious mind, where everything is stored there. But it's also that level we enter into in that state of deep sleep. And it's also that level we enter into in that state of ecstasy. We have kind of three different things that we attribute to this Anandamaya kosha or causal body. This corresponds to the semi-conscious state experienced by Chaitanya, because that state where he's completely merged is beyond all of these. That would be the Turiya, beyond even the causal body. Last of all, the mind loses itself in the great cause. So this Karana Sharira and then this Mahakarana. This is the cause of the cause, something beyond everything. It disappears. It merges in the great cause. What one experiences after that cannot be described in words. In his inmost state of consciousness, Chaitanya enjoyed this experience. Yeah, this is what is impossible to be explained. It's impossible for us to really even understand how there can be an experience without an experiencer. How without any sense of I, without any sense of every experience that we have is accompanied by this feeling of, oh, I'm having this experience, right? Yeah. Oh, how joyful this is. That's not even present there. The reason why we attribute so much to the state of samadhi is because of the state of the mind that just comes back down from that samadhi state. And that state is just filled with the joy and intoxication. And we understand from that through inference, anumana, through inference, that something tremendous takes place in this state of samadhi that can be described. But it's not only does it leave one in a state of bliss, but some transformation takes place and some burning up of karma, all sorts of things, some real transformation takes place through that state. So let me read this again. Man, looking outward, sees the gross. At that time, his mind dwells in the Annamaya kosha, the gross body. Next is the subtle body. Functioning through the subtle body, the mind dwells in the Manomaya kosha. That's this mental realm. And the Vijnanamaya kosha, both part of this mental realm. Next is the causal body. Functioning through the causal body, the mind enjoys bliss. It dwells in the Anandamaya kosha, the blissful sheath. This corresponds to the semi-conscious state experienced by Chaitanya. Chaitanya Deva had these three states, and when he was singing and dancing in ecstasy, that would be this outward state, and then it was a little deeper and higher. He would be kind of lost to the world, and then this real full samadhi state. So that's the last one. Last of all, the mind loses itself in the great cause. It disappears. It merges in the great cause. What one experiences after that cannot be described in words. In his inmost state of consciousness. Now, Sri Ramakrishna is basing all of this on his own experience. He's talking about Chaitanya Deva. He could just be saying me, but he doesn't like to do that. In his inmost state of consciousness, Chaitanya enjoyed this experience. Do you know what this state is like? Dayananda, this Dayananda Saraswati of the Arya Samaj, described it by saying, come into the inner apartments and shut the door. Anyone and everyone cannot enter into that part of the house. I used to meditate on the flame of a light. I thought of the red part as gross, the white part inside the red as subtle, and the stick-like black part, which is the innermost of all, as the causal. So this is one way to meditate on the different states of consciousness. The point of this type of meditation is to recognize that that same witnessing consciousness, unchanging, is there, whether it's functioning through the waking state, or whether it's functioning as the actor in the dream state, or whether it's just observing that dormancy of the dreamless sleep state. The same eye is there observing everything. But this is a way of doing it by making it a very tangible, physical, something that we can really visible even by looking at it. Is the flame with the three colors in it. By certain signs, you can tell when meditation is being rightly practiced. One of them is that a bird will sit on your head thinking that you are an inert thing. Yes, Ramakrishna, when he went through that state, and first, especially the first 4 years of sadhana, every night he would go into that pine grove north of his room, and he would enter into that deep state of lost to everything, no outer consciousness. His hair was very long and matted in those days, and little bits of food and things would be there, and birds would come and would peck from it, and he would barely know it. He said snakes could crawl over his body. He'd be unaware of these things. Yeah. I first met Keshav at a meeting of the Adi Samaj. This is the original Brahmo Samaj. Several members of the Samaj were sitting on the platform. Keshav was in the middle. I saw him motionless as a log. Pointing to Keshav, I said to Mathur Babu, "Look there. That bait has been swallowed by a fish." Yes, Ramakrishna, he had great affection and respect for Keshav. One of them was for his ability to go deep in meditation. Yeah, and then also for his simplicity and his humility. For someone who was so world renowned as Keshav, to go later to Sri Ramakrishna is just the humblest devotee with offerings in hand and bow down before him. Is really remarkable. The others who were so much less than him were jealous and had their pride in everything. He was free from that. He was remarkable in that sense. Because of that power of meditation, he achieved what he wanted: name, fame, and so on, through the grace of God. Yeah, he also understood that Keshav had his limitations, that he had some desire to start an organization but most of it was he wanted to start the organization to help people also. Then one can meditate even with eyes open. Everyone will like this. Yeah, because we close our eyes and nothing goes, nothing appears. We're supposed to close our eyes, huh? And automatically we see the Ishtadeva, the chosen ideal there. But most of us, me, I close my eyes, I see darkness. It's very hard. We can open our eyes then, of course. This is what a wonderful thing if we can do that. We read in the Swami V's class that the Swami Brahmananda was saying that when you meditate, you can think of the chosen ideal dwelling within the heart or even outside of you. That also makes it a little bit easier as this face to face. But this is a great concession that if we really have trouble with all of this, open the eyes, have the picture facing you in front of you. It's not real meditation, the way we understand meditation, but it's better than just losing everything, the mind just wandering. But it also means that we have to see the divine everywhere. Yeah. So one can meditate even with eyes open. One can meditate even while talking. Take the case of a man with toothache. Tutor of the doers. Yes, sir, I know that very well. All laugh. We had one humorous Swami. He said that this Mahesh Yogi, what was his name? The The transcendental meditation.
Oh,
Huh?
Mahesh Yogi.
There's something else before that? Something Mahesh Yogi. Anyhow, that he taught the transcendental meditation, and Sri Ramakrishna taught dental meditation. try to think that you have a toothache and how the mind will concentrate on that.
Aurobindo also,
Huh?
the transcendental meditation.
He also, Aurobindo had some, yeah. Yeah, there's different names that they give for these things. Dental meditation, yes. Tutor, one of the epithets of God is the Redeemer of the sinner. That is our hope. God is compassionate. Now, Sri Ramakrishna, this comes up many times. That the first time we read about this is with the Sikhs. He'll mention that here, Master. The Sikhs too said that God was compassionate. Now, how can anybody find fault with that statement? God is compassionate. Huh? But for Thakur, it's too low. He is a higher way of looking at this. I asked him, how is he compassionate? Why, they answered, he has begotten us. He has created so many things for us. He has brought us up to be men, and he protects us from danger at every step. Thereupon I said, after begetting us, God looks after us and feeds us. Is there much credit in that? Suppose a son is born to you. Do you expect a man from another part of the city to bring him up? Yeah, it's a very nice way of looking at it. That I always think that if a mother with a newborn child, if a mother will nurse the child and change the child and wash the child and everything, will we say, oh, how compassionate the mother is? Huh? It's her own child. Huh? It is out of love and joy and everything. So for Sri Ramakrishna, thinking of God as compassionate, just the way he doesn't like people to think that we're compassionate to other people. Yeah. Because there's some separation and distance and feeling that we're better than the others and everything. He likes this idea that there should be such an intimate relationship that there'll be no question of this ordinary idea of compassion. Okay, we'll stop here because we get another topic that comes up. So we're stopping here at page 605. I hope nobody will mind that I skipped around a little bit and read from something else today, but I don't want people getting this wrong impression that Sri Ramakrishna, he'll go out of his way to try to bring this fire of renunciation into these young disciples. Yeah, and sometimes it sounds a little harsh to us. So, okay, so we're stopping here. Yeah, middle of page 605. And we didn't yet get to this advice to Ishan. This is a very powerful chapter. I like this section very much. Okay. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukam Bhatadavikraham Ishavataram Parameshamedhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namah. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who is stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto all. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you next Friday, God willing.